Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another AFL Fantasy Fanatics round review post round 15. The second to last bye week is done. We have one more bye week upon us, and it's safe to say best 18, but we still copped a little bit of carnage and some very subpar scores. I'm your host, Bales, and you can find me at BAILSDT across the socials. And for those tuning in on the pod or on the replay of the video, we are recording live on Sunday, the 22nd of June, after completion of round 15. Joining me are a couple of my co-hosts and fellow AFL Fantasy Fanatics. And we'll start off, as always, with Guesty, mate. How are you?
Not too bad, boys. We're at the tough end of the buys. Glad to be out of them soon.
Yeah, exactly. And jumping on, as always, another one of our co-hosts, Joy DeSena. Jordy, mate, how are you?
Not too bad. A little bit down. I think, we can go into it in a bit of time. But, going all right. Not the best Sunday, but, we'll get through.
Yep, exactly. So we'll do a bit of a recap. And I know that people are tuning in because if you tuned in on Friday, we said if we had some $50 super chats come in that I would be doing a shot of good old Jack Daniels. And as someone that doesn't drink, I just all you got to do is pray for me. Simple as that. Pray for me. But yeah, we'll go through our weeks first, and then I will have one. And because we had two $50 super chats, I'll have one before we get into the games, and I'll have one at the end of the show. So not looking forward to it, but I'm a man that sticks to my word, so we'll do it. But Jordy, we'll go to you to start off. You obviously mentioned it a little bit.
For everyone out there, send in your $50 super chats so Bales can do even more shots by the end of the show.
No, it's two. If you want to send in a $50 super chat, you're more than welcome to, but there will be no extra shots taken. I've got work tomorrow, and I'd prefer not to be hungover. But Jordy, we'll go to you, mate. Unfortunately, you said that, it's a few things happened for you this week, mate. So firstly, explain to us what happened, but then give us your score, your round rank, and where your overall rank is sitting at now.
Yeah, I can see a few comments. People saying I'm in the dark. That's true. I had Whitfield captain. Not great. I was looking all right that on the week, but ended up with an 1860. So it's not too bad, I guess, with Whitfield captain.
That's
a good.
What are you talking? That's a great score. 1860 with a Whitfield captain. I scored not even 60 points more than you, and I had someone I'll talk about soon as captain.
Really? Yeah, I guess I was looking to get into that top 100, and I thought, I probably could have gone maybe over 2,050 if I. Yeah, but you can't win them all, and I've slid to 227 now, so it really wasn't that bad. We'll push on. Round rank of 12,470. So that's why I'm in the dark.
Yeah, so I have hardly had any weeks this year where I've been top 15k for the week, and that's with good captains. You had a top 15k week with a captain that got injured. That just shows you're having a pretty good year, and I'm having a shit year. So there you go. But hopefully, the Jack Daniels can drown my sorrows for tonight anyway. Guesty, what was your score, your round rank, and your overall rank?
Yeah, so I'm a bit like you, Bales. I didn't have any disasters really, apart from some, low primo scores. And I didn't score. Well, I didn't even score what Jordy scored. I scored an 1843. So that's without a disaster. So yeah, my team's just terrible. But I'm overall ranked 5,300, round rank of 15,000. Yeah, so not a great week, but I knew these 2 weeks were going to be my toughest weeks at the buys.
Yeah. And then my week, so 1916. So top scoring here, which doesn't normally happen too often, but 1916, pretty happy with that. That had a round rank of 5,329. So if I'm not mistaken, that I believe is my best round rank second best round rank for the season. So it just shows how bad the year's been. Overall rank jumped up to 8,134. So up 1,544 spots, which is nice. I was ranked about 8K, I reckon, around 8, and then I had an absolute shocker. So I'm hoping that doesn't happen this coming week, and we can keep pushing on and hopefully get to a respectable rank by the end of the season. Now we'll get to plus and minus threes. Guesty, I'll go to you to start us off. Who's your plus and minus 3 for round 15?
Look, I'm going to leave the obvious one for me for his biggest fan. So instead of giving it to anyway, I'll leave it to Jordy. I'm going to give my +3 to Sam Doherty, 131. Priced at 850,000 or whatever it was, to pump out a 131 when I was a bit concerned about how he was going to go. Was just superb. Really, certainly my top scorer in my midfield, and actually in my defensive line as well, even though he's not a defender.
Yeah, very, very nicely done. -3?
Got to be Jack Sinclair, 64. That was just a stinky score.
Stinclair, as they call him.
Yeah, exactly. So, for who I was saying on, I think Friday, was a top 6 defender, that's not the kind of score that I want him putting up.
Yeah, exactly. Very frustrating week for Sinclair. Jordy, + and -3 for you. I'm looking forward to, because you got a bit of a prop as well, along with your +3 that you want to have for people watching along at home.
It's going to put the light on now. +3. This guy here. I think the listeners, +3 is Luke Jackson, the unicorn. Glad to have him in. I think I've had him since round 11, so good to see. I guess a lot of it was probably was his second or third most traded in, so good to I think a lot of people jumped on board, so he has to get the +3. Don't know why I didn't VC. That would have been a very different story.
I'll tell you why, because as Taser said to us on Friday, you guys had a long chat and he had one career score over 120. That's why you didn't VC him, I think. But
yeah. I thought he would be at 115, 120, and I didn't want to miss out on Baz. And I thought I could get that from Jackson, and then I just got a bit too greedy, I think. And he kicked 3 goals, so I wasn't expecting him to do that, but I was expecting him to go well. So he's +3, and the -3 has to go to Whitfield. Just very unlucky.
It's a bit harsh to give it to a guy that got concussed, mate.
Yeah, I know.
You're taking no prisoners.
All right. No. Oh, if I have to do... The next one would have to be Bergman, I think, for a 52.
Yeah, that's horrible.
I think you said Bowsy was sick or something. Said it to Heaney, so
probably
hold him.
A few people said on I heard Heaney say to Mark Rashuda after the game, saying that the opponent went up to him at the start of the game and said that he was a bit crook, and then all the commentators were like, "Oh, why would you go up to someone and say that you're crook?" And Bergman was the one that was tagging him. So I'm just, again, it's an assumption that he was, but it would explain that the poor score and the fact that he, again, sore shoulder. There's probably a couple of reasons why he wasn't too good.
Yeah. I think, have to hold him, I think, as long as he's up this week. That's me, I reckon.
Yeah, but I think that your -3 will go to Ben King's shoulder, unfortunately. I think that's where you're probably going towards.
I would, I think he's unlucky, when that happens. So you can't, it's not like he got injured or anything. He had a calf or something going into the game, bit of a niggle. It's just unfortunate. So got to move forward.
Yeah. My + and -3. So I had 2 guys I wanted to give my +3 to, but I'm going to go to the guy. I gave him a spray last week and he responded as my captain. I was a bit nervous going into this week, considering that the fact with Baz and a few lower captain scores, Tristan Cherry, and I thought, okay, I need a good captain score here. And Marcus Bontempelli said, "Don't worry, Bales, I've got your message, and I'm going to go and have a good one." He had a 120. I'll look at the stat line and go 2 tackles. I would have loved a few extra tails to get the even more, but I'm a little bit greedy because I'm so far behind. But 120 with 36 touches, kicked 3 goals in that. Very, very happy to see the Bont bounce back and hasn't gone down too much in price. And his break even has settled back down to a 116, so which is very, very nice there. -3, I probably would have given it to Bergman as well. Couple of guys that also could have been there, but I'm going to give it to Chad Warner for my -3. I went him over Jack Sinclair. I know Sinclair wasn't great this week, but he'd been a lot better over the last few weeks. So I could have got Sinclair. I could have got Caldwell. they were all the guys I was considering. And going Bont and Warner over Sinclair and Caldwell has certainly put me a little bit behind during these bye weeks, which is a bit frustrating. But yeah, Chad Warner, hardly had any midfield time. They beat Port, but he still didn't really get involved. He had a decent enough first half, especially his first quarter. I think he's on like 32 points. But yeah, he's a bit of a hard watch, as they say, at the moment. So yeah, hopefully he can turn it around. But yeah, not loving his role at the moment. But yeah, let's quickly go, Guesty. We'll recap the Content Creators Cup, and then I'll have this Jack Daniels shot. So take as long as you want with the Content Creators Cup recap for round 2.
No, mate. Well, I think we're going to focus on this. Let's pay attention. I want to see if you can handle it a bit better than Roger did the other day.
No, we're doing the Content Creators Cup recap first, though, and then I'll do it.
All right, first. All right. Firstly, well, Jaiden and I were up against each other. So he took me out by about 80 odd points or something along those lines, 1929 and 1843. Jordox was up against Obermullets, who, by the way, is flying along at the moment. And he went down once again by about 60 points, 60, 70 points, something along those lines, 1913 to 1847. And then Bales went down a Jeppa by, 16, 17 points.
That's
so pretty close one there.
But yeah, 3 weeks in a row, I've lost by less than 40 points. And this week, I would have beaten 14 of the 19 coaches this week. And I get matched up against Jep. And he still had Whitfield, but didn't count for him because the best 18. And he had Baz captain. But he had, who was it? He had Noah Anderson. He had Dane Zorko. He had the Kennedy and Darcy duo. Yeah, can't believe it. Can't buy a win. And I'm now 2 games off of 19th. So I am clearly I'm a game and a half behind Fry. And then 2 games behind Jordox and Mini Monk. So, yeah, absolutely going swimmingly.
Yeah. But the top 4 of the Content Creators Cup are proudly brought to you by Infinite Wealth. You've got that bit, Bales. Is Louis on top with MJ in second there, both on 12 wins, and then Holmesy and then DC are on 10 wins for third and fourth. But overall, worthwhile shout out to Holmesy, who's now the leading coach overall, 169th. DT Lemon is 336. Nathan is sitting there at 566, and Louis rounds out the 4 coaches in the top 1,000 at 737.
Yeah, beautiful. And I'm looking at the team value, and I've got 800k less than Holmesy, so that's fantastic. So he's just outside top of him, and I'm fair way behind. But alrighty, okay. This is going to be very sucky, but I'll have the first of 2 shots. So. Not great, but here we go. Make sure that what's that? Got a tiny bit more. There we go. So that's first one there. This is not going to be fun, but it is what it is. But shout out to Luke Rojo from the Ball Boys and Tony Ford for the 2 super chats for making me do this. This is very annoying, but here we go. Ooh. There we go.
He handled that well. Very well.
Oh,
give him a minute.
I didn't even I don't think I touched you, Bales.
Yeah, no, we're good. But now I feel warm and fuzzy. So let's get to the game, shall we? I've still got to go. I've still got to do one more. So there you go. But let's go through the games and the scores for round 15. So there you go. I'm now seeing 2 lots of the games. No, I'm joking. I'm okay. Freo and Essendon is where we'll start off with. Freo getting the job done by 41 points, and obviously top scoring Luke Jackson, 144, as Jordy said, with 3 goals, 48 hit-outs, and was very, very good. Caleb Sarong, 137. What's that? Oh, yes, no, there's the unicorn plushie for anyone that's watching along here or listening to the pod. Jordy bought himself a little unicorn plushie. So I've got my Sam Taylor hat. He's also Sam Taylor face. He's got his unicorn plushie. We now just need to figure out what guest he's gonna get as his little side thing. But yeah, Caleb Sarong, 137 was very, very good, along with Jordan Clark, 133, and Luke Ryan, 127. So Essendon giving up some big points there. Jai Caldwell, 109. I've been a big fan of his for a few weeks now, and he's going to be a big target, I think, off of his bye. Andrew Brayshaw with a 104 was solid enough as well. Unfortunately, Nick Martin had a quieter game here with just the 85. He had like a 39-point was it third quarter, I believe it was. But outside of that, didn't do a huge amount. But we can forgive him for one poor game in his last sort of 5 or 6. And then Archer May Jordy, 74. I know you brought him in this week. I'm disappointed I went for Alga over him. I did not think he had the 74 in it, but he looked fantastic. He looked really good. He's obviously on bye this week, but is he someone that, for coaches that don't have him, that should be looking at him post their bye?
Yeah, definitely. I was, like you said, really impressed with him. I think it would be very unfortunate for him to be dropped, I think, after the bye. He was really good, kicked 2 goals. So I think he'll be a great option for us. And yeah, like it was 245k. I had to get a forward. So I was looking at him, and I was also looking at throwing away that position. And yeah, luckily I just was like, I'll just get the green dot, and he looks like he can make a bit of money here. So I think got a bit lucky with that, but yeah, he looks great. So I reckon he'll be a definite option. Could even probably go this week if you need a forward downgrade.
Yeah, exactly. If you've got enough players enough players this week, you might be able to go there. But I don't know if many people will have enough, because a lot of popular players on bye this week. No, Driscoll, 74, could be an option. I just think he's near 700k. It's probably just a very awkward price at this time of the year, when I don't think he's like the Colbys or where he's going to be able to continually put up 80s and 90s. So I don't know if I'd be going there, but he is an option if anyone wanted to go down that path. Angus Clark, 66. I think he's a fine trade out this week. I know he had a pretty good score here, but there are a few of those Essendon defenders coming back post-bye. So I think that he is a trade. Him to McCarthy, if you don't have McCarthy, is a pretty good trade this week. Price, 64 as well, was solid. Vigo Vicentini was really impressive. Could be a bit of an R3 option post-bye. I think Essendon were really impressed with him, and wouldn't be shocked if he was their ruck going forward for the remainder of the season, or at least more often than not. Going less, Zach Merritt, 57. So I guess I'll ask you about colour players here. So Zach Merritt on bye this week. He does have Gold Coast and Richmond post-bye, but if you had him, would you be trading?
I think it's definitely on the cards. With so many trades throughout this bye, and he just has not been going well. So I think you'd use the bye as the opportunity to jump off. And I think, like you've already mentioned, Bales, is that a lot of coaches are going to be pretty short on players this week. So we might have to make a few little sideways trades. So Zach Merritt is a perfect candidate.
Yeah, I agree. Obviously, we both moved off Shea Bolton, which we talked about that on Thursday. We're obviously very happy. We both went to Luke Jackson. So 91-point upgrade does feel nice. But the final one before we move in the last game, Guesty, was Zach Johnson, 35. That role shifted a little bit. It seemed like almost like a Darcy Parish was playing a little bit off half back there. And then I mentioned about the fact that they've got Redmond and Ridley and Zach Reed and guys like that all returning off the bye. Zach Johnson, obviously, he made a bit of cash, obviously, this week. So now he's priced at 441k with a break-even of 9. But could you trade him out this week if you needed that cash going him down to someone, knowing that they've got all those players coming back after the bye?
100%. I think, especially for player or coaches that have still got that one last rookie on field, it might be a move if you can try and get Zach Johnson up to a Callum Mills or something along those lines, that kind of player, or a Colby McKercher, or, to get that kind of last rookie off field. So, yeah, definitely buy. It's a buy. If it can get you to where you want to go, then do it.
Yeah, exactly. I think I agree with that as well. Zach in the chat saying someone needs to check that was not apple juice. No, it is. The bottle is here. There is evidence that is definitely not apple juice, because I felt pretty warm and fuzzy after that, and apple juice doesn't do that to me. So, yeah, definitely good old Jack Daniels. Moving over to the Friday night game, which was Geelong and Brisbane, with Brisbane getting the job done by 41 points, ending a 21-year hoodoo at GMHBA Stadium. So getting the win there. Dane Zorko, 124, was fantastic, along with Josh Dunkley with a 124. Now, I think he will be a target post-bye. He has dropped down a fair bit in price. And for those that traded, I think it was always going to happen, wasn't it? You trade out a primo, they're going to put up a big score over you, and unfortunately, that was the case here. Jared Berry, the 110 as well. Will Ashcroft, probably a guy that a few people will be trading on the buy. Guesty, you've got Will Ashcroft. Is he someone that you will be moving on this week?
Definitely in my sights. And I think it will happen, that's for sure. So I don't think I can get any kind of, couple of rookies down and a rookie up to where I want to go. So yeah, I think I'll be sliding off Will Ashcroft. He's done his job, but he's not scoring in line with those top I don't think he will long term anyway with those top 8 mids. So time to go.
Bailey Smith, 94. That was only his third score below 112, could you believe? And he went 102.84 back-to-back rounds in rounds 5 and 6. So his worst score for a while, hadn't gone below 119 since round 6. So there was his first poor score. He'll be fine. Copped a bit of Josh Dunkley attention for a lot of the night. So I think he will be okay moving forward. Tom Stewart with an 85 is okay. Jack Martin, if you went there, you'd be pretty happy with that 84. Does have the bye, obviously, this week. Kai Lohman, 84. Jordy, he's obviously made a bit more cash again. His break-even's now back down to, 29, 471K. Would you be holding Kai Lohman if you can, just with a little bit more cash to make? Or do you think he's a bit like Zach Johnson, can go on his bye?
You probably could hold him. I think in my scenario, because I've got Lohman, I will trade him because... I've got Lohman, Johnson, and Clark, who are 440 or 460K, or Lohman's 471K. That's where I'm going to be looking to go down and try and get a Mills or something in. So I'm probably going to trade him, but I think depending on what you got to do on your team, and how many dots you got, you could hold him because he did look pretty good. And I don't think, he was sub last week, but I don't think with that performance, I don't think we're going to see a sub anytime soon. And Brisbane brought in McLaughlin and Revel. So I think he's pretty safe for the next couple of weeks if you did have to hold him.
Yeah, I think that the sub was probably the kick up the backside that he needed, because he was pretty poor last couple of weeks before that. And the commentators and that was saying that as well. And I thought he played really well on the weekend. I think his start to the game was really strong. So I think he'll be good. And I'm probably looking at holding him this week. Levi Ashcroft, 79. Obviously, we'll trade it, but if you still had to hold him, 79 is not a bad score, but he's got to go. He's on his bye this week. Grind Myers, probably one of those preens with the 78. Does have Richmond post bye, but if you're really, really heavy, I think you could potentially sideways him across to a forward if you are heavy and need to trade. Max Holmes, 71. He went off, I think it was in the fourth quarter or the third quarter, with a bit of an ankle concern. It doesn't seem to be too bad because he did come back on the ground and finished out the game. I'd be holding. He does have Richmond post bye there. So for me, he would be a hold. Moving down the list here. Not too much else, I don't think, here. McLaughlin got a 33, but besides that, that's pretty much it from that game. So we will move over to the Saturday games, starting off with one of the upsets of the round, a few upsets in this round, but Carlton and North Melbourne. Carlton losing by 11 points, but fair to say that scoreline flatters Carlton the way that game went. North Melbourne clearly the better team on the day. But Jordy, your boy, and obviously our boy, when we all jumped on, Sam Doherty, 131. Saw a few tweets from Carlton fans saying that he should be dropped. Thank you for your service, but that's all we need, and thank you for your service. But if people are thinking that Sam Doherty was their worst player on the ground on the day, I don't know what they were watching, because Charlie Curnow played on Toby Pink, who is certainly not a household name when it comes to defenders, and he had one behind and got kept goalless by him. Okay, Doherty had a few turnovers, whatever, but I thought he was okay. Certainly far from their worst. Who knows? If he got dropped, it wouldn't shock me, knowing Carlton, but he should definitely be staying in that team and off halfback, because he is still a very good player. And looking at his fantasy score, pretty happy with that as well. Harry
16
Sheezer,
marks.
Exactly.
16 marks. Crazy.
Yeah, very, very good. Harry Sheezer, 116. Very nice score from him. Only had one CBA, but was just playing that extra mid up the ground and around the ground. So he was put up a good score. Adam Chera with a 109. He was also, again, getting it done. Parker, 107. George Hewitt, 102. 24 handballs out of his 31 touches, and comes into a bit of a trickier next sort of 3-4 weeks. So I'm not sure if we're looking at him necessarily as a trade target, but he is there as an option. Kai McKercher with a 99. Had kicked a couple of goals, 29 touches, just the one mark again. Did get ignored a whole bunch by North Melbourne players for those little +6s. So maybe that's just the thing. He's not going to take these marks, but 99 is a good score regardless. Big X was a bit quiet here, just with the 84 points against Pitney and De Koning. His tackle numbers have definitely taken a bit of a downturn over the last sort of 5-6 weeks. So since where was it? So even like this year, he has only had he's only had 2 games this season of more than 8 tackles, which last year he was doing that every week, the back half of the year. Like last few weeks, he's only had 3, 6, 7, and 5 tackles, and that was after that 12 tackle effort against Richmond. His tackle numbers have been off. I think he'll again get going, but just a bit of a flag that he has been on a bit of a downturn with his tackles. Caleb Daniel with the 76. Of all people, Guesty, I did not expect Caleb Daniel to cop the Alex Chincotta tag.
Yeah, not not who you'd pick, right? His disposal exact efficiency is not exactly up there. So yeah, it's not exactly who I'd pick to tag, but anyway.
Yeah, exactly. Fino Sutherland, 59. That might have helped a few people out if you had a few poor scores this week. He's had his 4 highest scores in his last 4 weeks. So making some nice cash. He's over 500K. So the slow burn is he's definitely starting to get going, and he's been playing some decent footy over the last few weeks. Hardiman and Carroll got a couple of 50s there as well for anyone that still has them. And Charlie Curnow with just the 27, and Cooper Lord with 24 got subbed out tactically. A bit rough for him getting subbed out, but on a poor score. Moving over to the next game, which was Port Adelaide and Sydney, with Sydney getting the job done by 19 points, but 9 goals, 17 made this game a lot closer. Brodie Grundy, Jordy, 121, continues to dominate. The ruck pig is well and truly back. I myself thought the ruck pig was his days of being an uber premium ruck done, but he is definitely putting all of that to bed. Where do you sit with him in terms of, could you sideways a ruck if you've got him there to bring him in just because of how good he's looked? Or do you think because he's expensive now, you just be looking at other things?
I think the trade was probably last week, wasn't it? Gone to Grundy. I think that was a very popular trade. I would assume now that everyone would have 2 decent rucks. So I would, unless you don't, maybe you went to Jackson and you've got him in your ruck and you're going to move him forward, then I would say, look at Grundy. But I would say with your rucks that you've got, maybe he's not a priority to get in. I think probably last week was the one, the Gone to Grundy. Had a massive last quarter, 49 points, and that's when Sweet was subbed off. So that definitely helps him. But he's got a great run. And, a lot of people are saying, if you did do Gone to Grundy, Grundy might make quite a bit of coin, and then you just flick Grundy back to Gone. So when they get closer in price, when Gorn goes on that run. So I would say, if you've got Jackson, did that play, maybe you look at Grundy this week.
Yeah, because X's break-even's 146. I don't think you can trade X out. I wouldn't be looking at that. A few people might look at that, but I think, it might be slightly points change, but I think X will come good. And he's obviously had a few points, but Grundy's been fantastic. Isaac Heaney, 111 for anyone that held him through his bye. He's been pretty good last 5 weeks, just 1 score below a ton. He's getting it done, and with the mids not doing really what we need them to, I think Heaney's not a bad sort of M7, M8 if you've got him sitting there. Zach Butters, 107. As someone that had the choice between Josh Dacos and Zach Butters at halftime, I know Jordy got messages from me. I was not happy knowing that
early
I
messages.
Wrong player. Yep. And then he had a 26-point second half because James Jordan, again, didn't leave his side for that whole second half. But 107, so Jordy, because I'll go to you for a lot of these players, obviously being all the Port guys near at the game.
Yeah.
Butters has got Carlton this week. Obviously, Chincotta's been doing jobs. Do you think Chincotta goes to Rosie and tags halfbacks like he did with Caleb Daniel, or does he go to Butters? And if whether that happens, do you think we can trade Butters in with this matchup?
So this is an interesting one because Rosie was actually the most CBA player for us this weekend. So I don't know whether he started halfback. I missed have started.
Yeah, he did. Yes, yeah.
He did. Yes.
Started in the midfield. But
yep. So I wonder if Rosie started halfback. Jordan went to him. They moved into the midfield to either break the tag or he just started there because Wines was out. So there's a midfield spot there that was, I guess, vacant. And I would have thought Bergman or Horne-Francis or someone would have taken that. But Wines could be back in. So it really just depends, I think, on where these guys play. I think we really want Rosie half back and we want Bergman inside. I don't think that affects Butters, though. I think Butters will just, do what he does in the middle. And I think, I'd still be pretty happy to trade into a Butters this week, even with a Chincotta tag. I think he will try to go to Rosie if he's at half back. That's just sort of my thoughts on it.
Yeah.
I'll probably look at Butters in this week.
Yeah, it makes sense because he went to Caleb Daniel on the weekend, or McKerchief a tiny bit there as well. But I wonder, with the fact that Sydney won the game and kept Butters to a pretty low second half, and sort of took the game way more in the second half. I wonder if they go to Butters there. That'll just be an interesting watch, because Butters is someone that I'm looking at potentially bringing in this week. So that'll be interesting there. But I think the big one here, Guesty, I want to get your thoughts on. I'll get Jordy's as well. Callum Mills. So 96, played halfback for the whole game. Looked pretty good. 96, obviously a great score. But is he someone, Guesty, that you want to be trading into? Because I guess it's not the role that we were thinking, yep, he's a really good value play. I think he's near 800K now. What are your thoughts on Callum Mills? Because I don't know if I'm sold, but maybe you guys can sell me if you're keen.
Look, I'm definitely sold if it's get your last rookie off field. I think he's outscoring his price significantly. Based on, I haven't seen where he's priced now after since lockout has lifted. Let me just have a quick look. So what is he? 791. So he's still under 800K, right? So, to get a guy that's potentially potentially could be, 20 points under price. I think is still a good bet.
Yep. Jordy, your thoughts on Mills?
Yeah, I originally was pretty hot on Mills. Watching him play, I was, going to get him sprayed in this week because I was going to look at getting him as a 23rd primo. The good thing for me is that he had high time on ground. So he's had 90% time on ground. So that first game when he came back, he had low tog and he was obviously playing a bit of a midfield role, but half forward. Obviously, he's playing full defense now. I was watching the footy show this morning and they gave him 8 votes. And I wouldn't be surprised if he comes out and gets some coaches' votes this week behind the ball. So I think I'm definitely looking at it. I have to check, personally, if Whitfield's going to get up, because I might look to get in a Sheasel or something. But if not, I'll be definitely looking to get him as a 23rd to cover some of those round 16 players. So I do like it for his price.
Yeah. Yeah, and I agree with that. With the price, that if they get your last rookie off field, I like it. The only thing I'm just, worried about is he only had 56 points after quarter time, had that big quarter, and that was when Sydney were chipping it around a lot. He got a lot of those +6s. Still had 27 touches, looked great. I guess I just don't know if I'm completely sold yet. But in saying that, his value, he's going to make some cash. If he's your worst sort of defender on field, I think you can still go there. So I'm not completely off of him. I just don't know if I'm going to personally go there, but I don't mind, obviously, him as a play. Connor Rosey, 79, obviously disappointing score, but that's his first sub-80 score for the season. We can all forgive him for that. He will be fine moving forward. Manny Liddy, 74, thought he looked pretty good, had some pretty good moments, a couple of errant kicks, but I think he'll be fine. I think he's going to be a pretty popular downgrade target this week. So his current price, for anyone that was sort of looking at him, his price is sitting at 296K with a -10 break even. I think he is a decent option as well. And he plays Thursday night, so you can even loop him on your bench and potentially take his score if need be. Chad Warner, 71, really disappointing. And if you've got no DPP, you got to hold for the time being. But I'm looking at trading him out in the next few weeks, probably once the buys are done, to maybe Daniel Horne-Francis. Maybe I'd go to a Jack McRae, something like that, because I've been really disappointed with his role. He's been playing a lot of forward, just not really getting involved much. So I don't know what's happening really with him. But if this is going to continue, I'm not loving him at the moment. Errol Goulden, 71. It was good to see him back. Had 0 marks, so that's probably the first time I've seen Errol have no marks. But clearly he made Sydney a better team. 17 kicks is great. He'll get better moving forward. So he went down a little bit in price this week. So he is currently sitting now at 1.08. Went down 36K with a 147 break even. He's going to be someone to keep an eye on in a few weeks' time, potentially as a fallen premium. Sheldrick with a 70. Not too bad from him. A solid enough score there. Horn Francis with a 67 was clearly a little bit hampered. Didn't play much midfield time either. And then I guess final play will really touch on a fair bit, Jordy, is Miles Bergman, because we had a few other sort of lower scores from a few rookies there, but Miles Bergman, 52, as mentioned, had a bit of a shoulder injury throughout the game, and from what we believe is that Heaney said that he was sick. What is he a guy that we're trading? Do we hold? Like, what are we doing? Because his price is now 8.13. He went down 3K on the weekend. Break even's up at 91. What are you looking at potentially doing with him?
Yeah, I think, look, if this was any other week, I'd probably be looking at trading him. Like, you know, as we go into luxury trades, 8.13K, you can get him to an Uber guy. But I need him this week with the dots, and I've got quite a lot around 16. So I'm going to be holding him for another week. I'm hoping, as long as he doesn't miss, I'm hoping, you know, he gets her up with the shoulder. And obviously, you know, must have been a bit sick, I think, was the talk. So I'll be holding. I think I would advise on that just for extra numbers. Like we saw, you know, some players, you know, put some low ones. So it's always good to get the extra numbers. And then maybe the week after will be the one that I'll trade him. The other thing with Port is we play Thursday night. So you'd have to lock that in Thursday. Yeah, so I'm going to hold personally. What do you think, Bales? I know you said straight away you're going to trade him, but yeah, I guess it depends on team and how many dots you got.
Yeah, because I'm not too heavy on the buy. So he's someone that I've got in the gun potentially as trading, just because I'll mention who I can trade in a midfield that I'm pretty keen on, or a couple that I can choose from, and I can't get a big enough upgrade. I can go like my final rookie to a Mills or something like that. But again, as I said, I don't know if I'm sold on that. Whereas if I can go Bergman to like a guy I think would be a top 8 mid, that's something I'm considering this week, but I'll just have to see with that. But yeah, I think if you're light on buys, I think he can go. He's made some cash. He's put some good scores up, but that role is clearly going to be a week-to-week thing, so it's not going to be consistent. But I do expect him to go to a Paddy Cripps this week, so probably a lot of midfield time, I would imagine there. So someone you can definitely hold for sure. Moving over to the Saturday night game, Collingwood and St Kilda. Collingwood winning by 34 points. And Darcy Cameron being one of the great picks of this season, 128. And he comes up against West Coast this week. So if you did sort of jump on him as a bit of a pod, or you held him through his bye, you'll be rewarded, obviously, with that score plus another good score coming up. Nasai Wanganeen-Miller are probably very stiff to not get a +3 from us. He has been absolutely fantastic this season. Another 125 from him. So he is now averaging 109.1 across the season. And his last 4, he's gone 134, 117, 128, 125. He's just been fantastic. And in terms of averages, he is now the 5th highest averaging player behind Baz, Gawn, Dawson, and English. And he's the number 1 averaging defender now. So he has gone well and truly above all of our expectations this season. What an absolute gun he is. Lipinski, 125, good for those draft coaches, along with Chris Pendlebury, a few tons there. Ryan Marshall, 105. Obviously, we heard during the week that he was a little bit hampered, but still looked decent in this game. Again, gave away 3 free kicks, which he sort of seems to love doing at the moment. But 105, 20 touches was pretty good from him there. Along with Jack McRae, 104. He could be someone that you target. Had low game time, but still was able to find the pill. Shout out to Nick Dacos as well, who copped a real old school tag, like Ryan Crowley-esque tag from Windhager. That's probably going to be a bit of the talk of the town and all those footy shows and that, with a few of the knees, the hamstrings, that. But Nick Dacos didn't care. Bont, that I know Bont didn't have to try because they're up by 70 points, but Bont, as fantasy players, we want you to do that. Do what Nick Dacos did, get to the 102. Solid score. Josh Dacos, 101. Again, looked like a bigger score there, but Ryan Burns went to him in the second half. A little bit of a run-with roll, so that kept him down to a 101, but still very happy with bringing him in this week. Ned Long, Guesty, scored 76. A little bit quieter here. Got his tackles, but just not as much of the ball. Could he be someone, if you're not heavy on the buys, you could trade, or do you think with the West Coast matchup, you've got to hold one more and then you can reassess post-buys?
Look, it's so funny how only a week ago, you know, before his bye, we were talking about how he's one of those players that was killing it. Like, I think he was averaging over 110 or something in his last 3. And, you know, why would you trade him? He's scoring in line with the top 8 kind of thing. And here we are a week later, and he's you know, throws out a 70. So yeah, look, I mean, he's certainly not one of those players that you would have thought at the beginning of the season was going to be a top 8 mid, right? So he's certainly someone that can be on the chopping block. But, I am curious to see how coaches are going to go this week, being the toughest of the buys, it seems.
Yep. Yeah, agreed. I think Ned Long this week because he's got West Coast as a hold, but I have I'll play around with maybe I could go. He might get a bit of a double premium sort of shuffle this week. But yeah, I think most people are going to hold. His break even still 88, went up 14k, and he's 889, so good price, but could be a hold for one more. Depending on how heavy you are and if you want to keep him for that matchup. Jack Steele, 66. I think he is a trade. He's over $1 million and he's just not looking like it. And his scoring was good, but now Jack McRae's back in and his scoring's gone back down again. I think if you're not heavy on the buy, I would be happy to trade him. You've got a few options there in the 900s that you could even make a little bit of cash out of that I think are better. Jack Sinclair, but again, a lot of people aren't going to be able to trade him if you do have him. Jack Sinclair, poor score. Wouldn't be shocked if he was carrying some sort of illness as well, because he did not look at it at all. Probably looked... he's normally quite a thirsty player, wants the ball in his hands, but didn't really want any part of it. So not a great score from him, but I'm sure he will bounce back from that score. Alex Tyrou, 49, not too bad in his first game, but obviously not a huge score. Could still be a downgrade target if you're looking for a forward. And then, Keeler got subbed out on the 31. Travalia got the 8, and he was the sub. And then, unfortunately, Matthias Filippo injured in the warm-up. A late out. They had to delay the start of the game so Ryan Birds can get strapped up and ready. So that's a shame for Filippo. Just cannot seem to get a good run at it. Moving over to the Sunday games, but as always, this podcast is sponsored by a couple of sponsors, but our good friends at Game Day Squad have jumped on with us for the 2025 season. We very much appreciate it. As you all know, Game Day Squad is another fantasy platform, and big things are happening over there, and the new contender series has started for the NRL and AFL competition. So if you guys haven't signed up to Game Day Squad, you can do that by heading over to gamedaysquad.com.au and use the code BAILSDT because you get a few free packs. You get 3 of the 9-player compact valued at $21. Absolutely free to get your kick started there, and it is free to play as well. So if you want another fantasy platform, if you're going crap in fantasy like I am, and you want something else to do and hopefully you can go a bit better, head over to Game Day Squad and register with the code BAILSDT at sign up. Link is in the description for more details. Moving to GWS and Gold Coast, with Giants getting the job done by 7 points and some big scores here. Jared Witts, no surprise, 138 up against Man. That was going to be a good matchup for him, but we have to go to Jordy for this man. I'm surprised he didn't quite... I'm surprised he didn't get the +3, and you can see on the screen Jordy's pretty happy with good old Nando's. Noah Anderson with a 133, 42 disposals, and kicked a couple of goals there. He was the guy I was talking about. I'm looking potentially bringing in this week. Melbourne and Essendon in the next 2, and a pretty nice run with not many tags coming up, I don't think, for him. Jordy, what do you reckon as someone that already owns him? Could you recommend him as a trade-in target?
Yeah, I've been a big fan. I really think the buy actually really helps him because he looked like amazing. Like he looked like that first half was, I got to see that before the gig today, and he looked unreal. Obviously he had 42 disposals and 2 goals, 1 for a 130. So again, he does have to rack it up to get a big score. And I guess that, he's sort of done that all year, but prior to that Geelong game with that 60, he's been pretty consistent. So, and he has been finding it. So, I think he's
4 of his last 5 been over 115. The only game under that, as I said, was the Mullen tag, and he pretty much got absolutely poleaxed by Tom Stewart. So, and as I say, he's got Melbourne, Essendon, Collingwood, Adelaide, Brisbane, Richmond. Ends with Carlton, Giants, Port. So maybe luxury trade, you maybe trade him later there. But if I'm looking at Melbourne, Viney, I think if he's going to go to anyone, I think he matches up really well with a Matt Rao. Then into the Bombers, I think Setterfield matches up really good with Matt Rao. Then Collingwood, Adelaide, Brisbane, and Richmond. None of those teams tag. So I'm looking at this pretty heavily this week as a trade-in option. Yeah,
and he's going to have the high CBAs. He's going to find it. Like he's got a decent floor game. I think he's a great option to bring in. I think the buy really freshened him up. That's sort of what I saw today.
Yeah. And the fact that he had 29 handballs for that massive score and didn't have many marks or tackles, I think there's potential scope if he can get some more of those +6s, some more tackles and kick the ball a little bit more. That score can be even bigger. So, really like that pick there. Toot Mello, 131. So the Gold Coast players certainly got their hands a lot on the ball. Tom Green, 119. Guesty, I think you own Tom Green. Am I correct in saying that?
Yes, mate. Yes, mate. This week was make. Well, yeah. Look, I mean, Gold Coast, obviously one of the easiest matchups there are going around for an inside mid. So, this was going to be a real make or break week for Tom Green for me, whether I traded him out at his buy or whether I hung on to him. But he's got a pretty good run coming up. So I think I'm going to be holding him.
Yeah, West Coast post the buy. I think, he's someone that I'd be probably holding now. I think Cogs is back post buy and Callahan in there, I think definitely helps Tom Green as well. Finn Callahan, 113 as well. He scored well, along with Toby Green, 113 for anyone that still was holding on to him. Matt Rowtund up there with a 106. Riccardi, good for his draft coaches. Your boy, Jordy, Lockie Ash as well. 103 obviously took advantage a little bit to an extent with Whitfield going. I've had the 9 kick-ins and played on from all 9 of them as well. And Buddy Humphrey turned up as well there. But, Joy, the one I want to get your thoughts on was Sam Flanders. Scored 88. I don't know if we're trading into him just yet, right? So his price is now sitting at, can you believe, 657K, break even of 69. We mentioned the run for Gold Coast Cup looks pretty nice on paper. Apparently, I was on doing a watch song for the game earlier today, and a guy that's a Gold Coast fan, shout out to Jake Sutton, who was tuning in on the watch song, said that he's a Gold Coast fan. He was watching and said that Flanders was certainly playing a different role and playing more of that fourth mid up to stoppage, a bit like Sheezel and Nick Martin do, and then getting a lot of touches between the arcs, which is not what we saw pre-buy. And I think that had a lot to do with the fact that he had that back injury pre-season, working his way back in. But with the buy, it seems to have freshened up a couple of those Gold Coast players. And I think Flanders is one. Is he someone that's now firmly back on your watch list, maybe like obviously heading into the game next week?
Geez, that's a tough one because he's very cheap. He didn't have any CBAs, as you said, but I did notice that first half he was rolling up a lot more. 29 touches. Like usually that would be probably a ton, obviously lacking a few tackles. Gee, that could be a nice one.
Could you bring him in and loop between him and McCarthy at D6?
Potentially, yeah. Might look into that one because he's very cheap. I guess the thing is he doesn't. If he does it again, he's still going to be very cheap the next week. But I do like jumping on players early if we have noticed a role change. So that's and to me, like Flanders. It's hard to see him scoring this because last year he played half back, he could play midfield, he could play anywhere, and he was still scoring relatively well. And obviously that limited pre-season, it's hard to see him going this low. So, that's one that I might have to look at that one, but I don't mind it, especially at his price.
Yeah, he's definitely someone that I'm looking at and might play around with some trades where he might be that final rookie upgrade, but maybe get a sideways shuffle for another premium. But I'm probably more likely to watch him for another week to see how he goes. But I did mention that Gold Coast decent run coming up. And if Flanders has had a bit of a role sort of tweak and playing a lot more up the ground instead of deep forward, definitely someone that if he's not on your watch list already, definitely put him on there. You mentioned obviously before Jordy about Harry Ralston with an 83. He was very, very good. I think it's as simple as if he's in the team post buys, I think he's a pretty good target to be looking at as a downgrade in the midfield. So something to watch post buy with Cogs potentially back.
Yeah, just on that, I was reading an article. Came out on AFL.com, and it was Callahan did an interview, and he said about their midfield mix and how they were trying to get more consistency. And they said Browson came in and they really felt they had that consistency last week, and that was with him in there. So I think they're going to run with it. He had another 22 CBAs, Ralston. So I think he's starting to actually have a role there, and that's what they want to move forward. So I think post buy is one that you should probably jump on.
Yeah, definitely something to look at there. So his game time took a slight uptick to 70%, a bit more than the 62% last week, and was the third CBA mid behind Tom Green and Finn Callahan. So, and it was those three clearly. And Toby Bedford actually is now not really doing as many of those tag roles anymore. He's now playing a bit more forward, and Rowston's come into that midfield and made a role. So maybe that's just a sign of he's had some good form in the VFL, come in, played well at AFL, and they're maybe trying to get him there, and they're not going to worry with Bedford, which I guess would be good for tags coming up for Giants if we don't have to worry about Bedford. But I still think Bedford will play roles if needed there. Nick Mann got a 63, not too bad, especially if you got him had cover this week. He might not have canned for you anyway, but 63, good for some cash gen there. Might be able to go if you want to trade. But they have won 3 games in a row, I think, Giants now, and since he's been playing, so that could be something to watch for moving forward. That if they if he's playing well, maybe does he hold Briggs out? Something to watch moving forward there. Moving down the list, not too much else, obviously, unfortunately, with the Lockie Whitfield thing. And a few people asking, like, if he's going to be playing or not post-bye. From what I've heard and understand is that because that game falls on the 12th day, he won't play post-bye, but I'm not 100% confirmed. That's not confirmed or anything like that. That's just from what a few people have said and what I've sort of read. But he might play, but obviously if he's playing post-bye, you hold. If you're heavy on the bye, and he's not playing, obviously, I think it's a trade. So I know, Jordy, you were talking about that before. So he's someone that you might look at moving on if he doesn't play post-buys. Moving over to the final game, which was the Western Bulldogs and Richmond, with the Dogs getting the job done by 79 points. Big win here. And Tim English has been one that I wish that myself and anyone that started Tristan Sherry started. Another big score, 138. Just doing Tim English things that we know he can do. No, again, nothing huge, but 24 touches, 9 marks, 28 hit-outs, a couple of goals. He's just an absolute gun. He's going to be very much in the mix where he is a current top 2 ruck, and he's probably going to be right up there. So if you are looking at him, I couldn't blame you for looking at targeting him. And if you went there from Gawn, you'd be pretty happy with the first week of scores. Marcus Bontempelli with a 120, as I mentioned before, very good score from him. I still think he's a good target. I think if Jordan's going to go to anyone, I think he's going to go to a Bailey Dale. And then Rowbottom, I think, might go to an Ed Richards. So I think Bont should be okay. Rowbottom could go to Bont, but I think he's a good target. He's pretty cheap now as well. Matt Kennedy, 114, just keeps getting it done. Like the stat lines of 25 touches, 7 marks, 7 tackles is fantastic. He got it done again. Sam Darcy, for anyone that launched over there, 5 goals for 114 was very good. Bailey Williams has now taken 32 marks in 2 weeks. So he is, again, 113, being good for draft coaches. Sam Davidson, turned up as well, 108. If you held him, you'd be very happy with how he went this game if you had to hold on to him. Bailey Dale with an 87. So if anyone watching that, he set off the last, I reckon, 15 minutes of the game. I think from what people said, he had calf strapping on, and people said maybe he might have copped a bit of a knock at training a few days ago. So that's just, it's unfortunate if you did trade into Bailey Dale this week, but he might be, I think he'll play. I think he'll be fine. So just a bit of a rest there, but not what you wanted with the Richmond matchup there. And maybe Jordan goes to him, which means that could be a lower score against Sydney. Adam Treloar, unfortunately, got subbed out on 35. That's a shame. He's obviously going to be very, very cheap, and we were hoping for forward status, but I think he might miss a week or two with a bit of calf, I think, awareness is what they're calling it there. And then Jasper Auger, he was the starting sub. I still don't know why they named debutants as starting sub. It just doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever. I think it's pretty poor, and they should play full games, but scored 10 in the end, and I traded him in. So that was very, very annoying. But Jordy, any of those sort of Dogs players, are you looking at, or either you looking or would recommend people jumping on, like a Bont? Is Kennedy too expensive? Could you jump on a Sam Darcy now? Like, what do you think with some of those Dogs guys?
Yeah, I like the Dogs. I've got Bont, Kennedy, Darcy. I brought in Darcy this week, and I think, as a key forward, I know he sort of bucks the trend a bit, but I'll definitely look at Darcy for his price. Kennedy potentially is probably a bit expensive now, but Bont as well. Like, I wonder, I haven't checked since lockout, but I think if you haven't got Bont, he definitely should be a target.
959k break even.
Yeah, that's very cheap.
16.
Yep, I think those 3 would be the 3. Obviously, you got Richards there and Dale, but I don't know. I'm sort of looking at those top 3 guys, I reckon, for me. But I've got them, so I won't be looking at any Dogs next week.
Yeah. Guesty, as we wrap up, any Dogs that you're looking at there at all? Obviously, they've got a couple of nice games coming up.
Yeah, I think you definitely got to be considering Bont at that price, don't you?
Yeah, he's pretty cheap. Do you think it is too expensive now to go for Matt Kennedy?
Look, I think it's okay, especially at starting to get to this time of the season. I think it's just a simple matter of just expect that he's going to go at pretty much what you pay for him. I mean, that's pretty much what he's been throwing up for those last 2 weeks, because I know he was on in the shopping cart for a lot of people a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, he is now 9 tons in a row, and all but 2 of them have been over 110 as well. So just ultra consistent, gets it done. 1.09 million. If you have got a lot of cash in the bank and you can go there, I don't hate it, because he's a very good watch, and a bad one as a non-owner. I definitely want to get him at some point. But yeah, I think that Bont is a good target. And Achiever just said in the chat, just had a look at the HIA rules. The earliest a player is eligible to play is on day 12. So if Whitfield's cleared by club doctors and completes his return to play program, he can play. So, Jordy, if that were the case, to as we sort of wrap up here, we've got 2 super chats, which we'll get to in a sec. And if anyone does want a question answered tonight, feel free to send a super chat in, but we will answer questions, a lot of them on Tuesday night for our Q&A. But as with that, Jordy, if Whitfield is playing post the buy and you sort of hear that, are you going to hold him just because he's dropped a fair bit in cash and you'd want him probably back? Or do you think that he's on buy? If you're heavy, you just trade and you can always just bring him back in, because he does have West Coast post buy if he is playing?
That's a tough question, because without this, I was definitely holding him, because he's top of the line. He's top 3 defender, I would have thought. But now that he's going to drop in price, I could get him back. So it's something that I need to look at, because I was either going to trade him to say, so basically in round 12, I traded Sheasel to Whitfield. And it obviously hasn't really come off. Probably should have just held Sheasel. So it could be something that I look at doing. If he's out, then I'm obviously definitely going to trade him. But I think with him dropping in price, you could probably look at it. I need to have a look, because I might do that if it's something that will give me enough dots, or I'll look at the 23rd Primo to cover him.
Yeah, I think if he's playing post buy, you probably don't want to trade just because you're going to be wanting to trade him back. But again, if you're really heavy on the buys, I think this is a bit of an excuse that you go, okay, well, I'll trade him out. If he plays post buy, then fine. But if not, then
bring him back in.
To trade. The only thing is, though, I think it was 4 or 5 years ago. I think he had a concussion and came back against Richmond and scored like a 180 or something like that. So that's the only warning, that if you do trade, that something like that potentially could happen, because that is a guy like Lockie Whitfield.
I think if I can get Mills, then I'll probably look at holding him. Yeah, it really depends. I want to obviously try and make up some points. So this week now. So yeah.
A couple of super chats here just to wrap up the show. So Tim Ashworth saying went Gawn to Marshall last week, along with and he's looking at one of Dacos, Butters, or Dylan Moore this week. So Jordy, is it just as simple as Nick Dacos has got West Coast this week? You just jump on. This is the week to get him.
Yeah, I reckon. Him fighting through that tag was unreal. That's real good signs moving forward for future tags. I would just be grabbing him now while he's cheap, because I reckon the back end of the year, Dacos, Baz is nice matchups. Yes, and also he seems to always, just get those 3 votes for the Brownlow. And who knows? He's still in the race. He seems to come home real strong in most years. So I'll be grabbing Dacos.
Yeah, I'm really liking 4 of his next 5 as well. West Coast, Carlton not as much. I expect Chincotta to go there, but then Gold Coast, Freo, Richmond, and Brisbane don't even tag as well. So I think there's some good matchups coming for Nick Dacos. If you don't have him, I think this is the perfect time to get him. Break even to 111. So yeah, I really like him and would go for him, Tim there. Stu has got the super chat. Thank you, mate. I know that Stu is currently, shout out to him. He's number 1 in the Patreon Cup for the patrons over there. He is currently sitting at where was he? He was I know that's weekly rankings. I know he's in the top. I think it's 14th overall. Yeah, there you go, 14th overall. So shout out to you, Stu, there. But he's asking Guesty about Mills or Flanders for D6 coverage to play with McCarthy. Would you go Mills just because we've seen a little bit more, or do you think there's maybe save the 100K and you can go for Sam Flanders?
Oh, look, I think at this point in time, you definitely want to be going Mills just because we've seen it. We know where his kind of scoring and his role is, whereas Flanders, I think it's still a bit of an unknown. I mean, obviously we've seen it maybe once, but who knows if that happens again. But if it does, I think that's when people can jump on and maybe use him as a 23rd kind of primo.
Yeah. And people just, Tim was just saying in the chat as well, actually, that he was talking about Josh Dacos, Jordy. So if it's between Josh Dacos, Zach Butters, and Dylan Moore, is it still going for Josh Dacos because of the good run coming up?
I'd go Butters personally.
You go Butters,
yeah, I go Butters for that's just personally for me. I'd lock him in and not have Dacos second, Josh Dacos. I know Bales, you had that call this week and 50-50, but I personally just like Butters as a mid option. And I feel like he could be closer to a top 8 mid, whereas Josh Dacos, I think, he's got a nice run, but we do have some nice options in defense there. So I think Butters is closer. And I think, I'm just more of a Butters man, I think. So that would be where I'd go.
Yeah. I think personally this week, I'm still Josh Dacos just ahead, but next week it'll be Zach Butters after this Carlton matchup. Josh Dacos has turned up in 6 of his last 8. And I think that there's scope that he can really score well. He's got, again, as I said, West Coast, Carlton, Gold Coast, Freo, Richmond in the next 5, and I like those matchups. So I'm still Josh Dacos ahead, but him and Butters a coin flip. I think Dylan Moore's still a good option, but probably third on the list there. And final super chat here as we wrap up was from Will Byte. Thank you, mate. He's asking, is there a way you can look at my team bars and suggest trades? So, there is. Yep, you can head over to our Patreon, patreon.com/AFL Fantasy Fanatics. All patrons do get a free team review each week through the Ask Me on Q service. So if you'd like to sign up there, Will, you can. That's the only place I do the team reviews and stuff like that. So if you'd like to get involved there, then feel free. Or we can answer your questions live on Tuesday night, as we always do, 8 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. per time, answering all of your fantasy questions. So I'll have to do this bloody second shot very, very shortly. But I think just as we wrap up, we'll go through our current trade plans, and then I'll have this shot. So, Jordy, we'll start with you. Obviously, lockout only lifted not too long before we started recording. But if you had to think about what you might potentially be doing with your trades this week, and what are you looking at?
Yeah, so I had 2 options. This is sort of in the plans. One was Lohman to Dewar. I don't mind Dewar. I think he can make a lot of money. I definitely got to get McCarthy in, so I was going to go Clark to McCarthy, and then it was either whether I trade Whitfield to a Butters. That was one move. The other move is I'll have to trade out Johnson, Lohman, and Clark, and I'll get a McCarthy and Liddy, and probably a Mills. So it'll depend on the Whitfield news, I think, and that's where I'll sit with it.
Yeah, don't mind those moves at all. Guesty, what are you looking at with your moves?
Yeah, I'm not sure at the moment. It's going to be tough. Look, I'm thinking about maybe a Flanders as that getting that last rookie off field for me, which could have me hold a Will Ashcroft, or do I get rid of a Will Ashcroft and wait one more week? Yeah, I'm not really sure at the moment. It's way too early.
Yeah, fair enough. We can hear on Tuesday night maybe. I'm sure we'll all have a bit more of an idea of what we'll be doing with trades. My early trade plans, I'm not too heavy on this buy, which is I deliberately planned it this way. So Clark to McCarthy is a pretty obvious trade I'll be making. So that'll be one of the trades. And then my other 2 trades could be a Boxall down to a Liddy. And then I can go my final rookie and maybe a Foss up and get a Mills. Or I can go a Bergman up to Noah Anderson, which is I'm definitely considering doing that trade. I don't know if I can quite go 2 rookies down and then go Finn O'Sullivan up to a Butters or an Anderson. If I can do that, I'd probably look at that, but I'm not sure if I can do that. So we will see how we go here. But as we wrap up, Jordy, thank you for jumping on once again, mate. Where can the people find you?
Just Jordan DeSena on X or Instagram, I think, or Glenn said he came to a gig today, so thanks, Glenn, for coming. I didn't get to catch you, but I do post the gigs on socials. So anyone in Adelaide, hopefully, see you guys around.
Yeah, exactly, mate. Thank you for jumping on. I'm sure we'll see you on Tuesday night. Guesty, mate, where can the people find you?
Tim Guest AU.
Yep. And you can find me at BAILSDT and us at AFL Fantasy Fans across the socials. And also, big shout out to all legends out there, because last night we hit 4,000 subscribers on the channel. So thank you very much, everyone, for subscribing and showing your support. It feels like literally only a few months ago we hit 3,000, and it's been not even a few months. We've already hit 4K. So thank you, everyone that's subscribed and done that. Your support is always very, very much appreciated. That is why we do what we do, and that is why we do these pods, because it is for you guys, and we very much appreciate it. But we are now trying to go for 5K, which is an even bigger goal. So I think we're about 990 something away from that. So if you haven't subscribed to our channel, please do, so we can head towards 5K. And if you are tuning in, make sure you smash like on the video. I've done 2 shots. I know that people paid me to do these shots, but if you'd like to help support us and do extra there, then make sure you do smash a like on the video. And as we wrap up here, I will do this final shot, which I'm not looking forward to, but we'll get it done. Hopefully I can handle this one as good as we did the first one. Thank you guys for tuning in. I think I did it pretty well. I think I'm confident I can say, Rojo, I think I've done it better than you, mate. So, but no, shout out to the Ball Boys for doing that on the weekend. But yeah, thanks everyone for tuning in. We'll be back on Tuesday night for our Q&A, as always, at 8 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. per time, answering all your questions right there. So if you ask a question tonight, head over on Tuesday and ask it there, and we'll answer those for you. So thanks, everyone. Hope you had a good weekend. Catch you guys on Tuesday. Thanks, everyone. Have a good night. See ya.